Knox, come in. Sit. Thank you. You are such a good man, Knox. Thank you for being there for my baby.
I'm just trying to follow my heart.
No.
Trying to follow your heart?
Yes, my heart.
Man, what can you possibly do for my sister? You can't do nothing for her. And she damn sure can't do nothing for you.
JC, please.
Nah, mama, I'm tired of this dude.
Why, JC? Why?
Because you praise him.
Because he fell in love with your dying sister because he gave her something you couldn't give her.
What do you think I was doing? While I was out there in the streets. I love her. I pay her bills, her medication, insurance couldn't cover.
Oh, so you're a saint.
Yes, I'm a saint. I kept her alive for this long.
Stuffing money in her pockets didn't keep her alive, don't you understand? My love, his love kept your sister alive, not your money.
Where's my love at? That's my sister. That's my goddamn sister. That's my sister. You get it?
Okay. I'm sorry.
I don't want it to go.
For years, I've always wanted a beautiful home with beautiful furniture. Well, recently, that dream of mine came true. I found the area's best. I found Home Concepts. Home Concepts had a giant selection to choose from with colors and styles I just fell in love with. And when we checked out Home Concepts prices, well, we were able to redo not just the living room, but the bedroom and dining room too.
More of what you need, Home Concepts.
Josh, honey, what's the matter? You're not eating dinner.
I don't like it. It doesn't taste good.
I like it. It's good.
Thank you, Jenny.
Josh, eat up. It's good for you.
It'll make you strong and keep you healthy.
Like Energy Man.
Josh, are you reading comics at the dinner table again?
No, wait. Jenny's right. Like Energy Man. Josh, how do you think Energy Man got big and strong? And how do you think he stays healthy?
I don't know.
By eating healthy foods. Getting all the nutrients that give him energy.
What are nutrients?
Nutrients are the part of food that help you grow and makes your body work properly. Now, put the comic book down, eat your dinner.
Welcome to The Bright Side, the show that explores healthy and honorable single lifestyles. I'm here with some guests from various walks of life, and we are discussing the idea of if it's possible to be a happy single without being a promiscuous single. I don't know. What do you think?
I think that kind of says that in order to be happy, you have to be having sex.
A lot of people think that, Helena.
There are a lot of married people that aren't having sex. In fact, if you read, Dear Abby, there are quite a few married people who are not having sex. And they seem to be happy anyway. So I don't think that having sex and being happy are synonymous.
Okay, so you don't have to have a romance in your life to be a happy person.
I don't think so.
But doesn't 90% of the world think you do?
Depends on what they're living for. I mean, if you have a person that defines their life by sex, then of course that's the only way they're going to be happy. But how do you define your life?
Well, we need to look at that. I think it's important to note that most faiths point to some sexual standards. We don't see that much in any of our entertainment, in any of, you know, the venues of condoms being passed out in high schools, you know what I'm saying? I mean, basically, it's like, you know, you're a person and you should be able to express yourself, but I discovered that in the last couple years of being a single again, after being in a marriage and having my husband pass away, that it is possible to have a happy single lifestyle. And I know what I think about it, but I want to hear what you guys think. What's the secret? What's the secret?
Well, I think it's just surrounding yourself with the group of people that will encourage you to live a healthy lifestyle. I think it's all about the group that you have around you. If you have really good, active social lifestyle, you don't necessarily have to be in a sexual relationship to have that sort of pleasure met. I think you can have that satisfaction of being happy without it if you're surrounded with good friends and who you can enjoy things that are more lasting than just a sexual experience.
And I think there's a lot of things that are so misleading about being in a sexual relationship that we do see on TV, that it's the answers to all of our problems and it just makes life so wonderful, but there's so many more dynamics and elements to life that do make us happy. And a lot of it has to do with our purpose and what we want to do with our life outside of a sexual relationship, because that is so, you know, temporary in a sense. And, you know, we do focus too much on it and we do mistake it for love, especially women. And that's a huge problem. So I think if we get priorities straight and, like, you know, for me, just having a purpose and goals that you want to reach, and out of that kind of gets you to that place where maybe that will come along, because there's nothing wrong with having a romantic relationship, but to put the focus on it and making it everything, that's where the downfall is.
Yeah.
You know?
Guys, is that true? Like, for you, like, say, Josiah, you're a student, okay? Is that your experience, that it's not hard to be single? I think it's hard, personally. I mean, I think it's doable, but I don't think it's easy, because basically feel like we were created to be together, you know, but we find ourselves single, and so how do we face that?
I mean, I think it being hard to be single is obviously subjective. If you want to not have sex and that's your goal, I think the secret is to determine not to have sex, not have sex, and then enjoy whatever it is that you're doing. Besides that, if you operate under the premise that you're going to be unhappy, you're going to be unhappy, just like everything else. But if you choose to enjoy how you're living and enjoy the life stage that you're in, I think that it'll be enjoyable no matter what you use to fill your time or do otherwise rather than sex.
Why do you feel it's so necessary just to say purpose not to have sex? Like, why does it have to be an extreme?
Well, that's not really extreme. It's just it's just a goal.
Where are you limiting to that? I mean, is that your whole life? Like, why is it?
Well, the question that she asked was originally, how is it possible to be single and not have sex? And one of the things that you need to do if you're going to be single and not have sex is decide that you're not going to have sex and then don't have sex.
You have to decide and then have it, in other words.
Exactly. And I think that, as stupid as that sounds, people believe that it's somehow possible to make a decision not to have sex and then to continue to have sex and go back and forth. And that's when it gets really difficult.
Well, how does that happen? I mean, okay, because a lot of people, you know, women in particular, you know, you break up with whomever, you've gotten to inappropriate or relationship, or maybe you thought it was appropriate and it, you know, it didn't go where you thought it was going to go. So then you make this decree. I'm going to be celibate until Mr. Right comes. And then what? Because, you know, then what do you do? Because time and time again, we find ourselves back in the same situation with Mr. Wrong, doing the same thing you said you weren't going to do. But you made that decision. You said, I'm not going to have sex. I'm just going to take care of me. I'm just going to focus on my higher calling in life. And then you're right back on that treadmill. So you know, what do you do to make yourself not get on that treadmill?
Well, I think what happens, though, is that you know, people say, you know, I'm going to focus on my calling, or I'm going to focus on my purpose, or I'm going to focus on this until I get that person. And then when that person comes, then they start looking for those opportunities. You see what I'm saying?
Everything drops.
Everything does. And I think ultimately, the person that does that, when they get to that point where they drop what it is that they say that they're living for the purpose of physical enjoyment with the person, then that's really not what they were living for. They were living for physical enjoyment for a person. They were just using that to buy the time, or pass the time. And
So the person is like either in the way or on the way to your purpose. They're either helping you get there or they're in the way of it because you're allowing it to get in the way.
Or they come alongside of it. I mean, not that the two people have to do the same thing.
Oh.
I mean,
Yeah.
I'm in youth ministry. I'm gonna be doing that probably the rest of my life. It's a job that takes up most of my time, and so whatever woman comes in my life, it's not like she has to be doing all that stuff with me. Like she's an assistant or anything like that. But what she's purpose and where she's going and where I'm going, if they don't conflict with it, they don't steal away from each other, then we fit together. And I think when people they jump into those kind of relationships because they're looking more for the physical, emotional, and all those other kind of attachments instead of thinking, well, what's my purpose? What's my focus in life? Who am I? What defines me? And does this person fit it? And do we have the same standards? Because that can get in there too.
That is ultimately. And you're an urban youth worker, so how do you communicate that with youth? I mean, that have all those hormones going, and I mean, even our 40s, we seem to still have those hormones going.
Well, and that's one of the things.
Pesky hormones.
I tell you, they just don't let up.
Yeah, well, and that's one of the things that, like, I instill in my students that they maintain their focus on God. They maintain their focus on why they were created, what they're gifted in, and find their fulfillment in God and in their identity and who they are. And as they find their fulfillment in who they are, they don't have to be sidetracked with all this stuff. And I mean, ultimately, it's like anything else, though, in life. It takes discipline. It's not like it's easy, but how much of life is easy?
So we can't get away from discipline with this issue.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's no way around this in an easy way.
Okay, I think that sounds great for kids.
Yeah, I mean,
For students. But once you get past 35. And you've been maintaining discipline, and you want to, you want a family, you want a husband. It is not a simple thing to say. Oh, well, just make up your mind and decide you're going to do that, because you've got all of these other hormones. You've got all these other. You see people who are married, they're pushing their little strollers with little, Jamie 1 and Jamie 2 in it. And you don't have that. And you start looking at, well, I don't have that. I want that. Then it turns to, let me go out and get it. Because, I don't have it. So what do I need to do in order to make that happen in my life?
There are great ways in which you can actually go out to fulfill that sort of need and to meet that without necessarily selling yourself too cheaply. I think there are ways in which you can go out there and meet genuine people and not necessarily let your standards down.
Okay, Michael, you're a businessman. Say you're at a party, social environment, some kind of a business networking meeting or something, and some girl comes up to you and is obviously interested and hits on you, okay? Right. One thing is going to another. So how does this really work? Okay, so you've made a decision, to keep a pure standard. She's just relentless, right. Okay? She's just coming on stronger and stronger. It's very flattering. I mean, I think we've all been there. Right. Once or twice, hopefully.
All the time.
They just throw themselves at Brandon.
Seriously.
Yeah, and of course Josiah too. But how does this really work? I mean, what do you say? Because like as a woman, you can say, "Well, I have a boyfriend," or whatever. But what do you do?
Well, I don't think I necessarily would cut it off just because someone is making these advances.
You wouldn't cut it off.
No,
just go down the road with her.
Let's see where this goes.
No, it's not necessarily just following where it is. I think we ought to. There is a reason why she's doing it, and then we can find out if there's a way that I can help and not necessarily. No.
Yeah, I'm sure she'll have several ways that you can.
No, absolutely. There'll be ways in which.
See how we can work this
apart
out,
from
you know.
sexual things, I think the way in which to handle it is not necessarily to shut the person off because they're making advances.
I
that
know,
are
you're really
uncomfortable
strong on
for
that.
you.
So let's hear about this. How
It's
does
not
that work?
necessarily because things are uncomfortable for us doesn't mean
Right.
that we need to stay away from
You're
it. I think
absolutely-
if we're to look into our lives, we need to take on the things that are challenging. We need to look at things differently. And sometimes the person might bring out things in us that we haven't seen before and which would be good for us. So I think people cross our paths for different reasons. And if she's making certain advances to you, maybe that person is coming into your life to open your eyes to certain situations, relationship-wise, and to have you think differently, even if it does challenges your status or your opinions, you know.
So what you're saying is that somebody can be attracted to you sexually,
Yeah.
but have it not result in a sexual relationship.
Yes.
In other words, use that and channel it
Yes.
in a more creative direction, in an intellectual direction, spiritual, artistic, something. Oh, well, you're an artist.
Yeah.
I mean,
I was going to say, that sounds so easy, but I mean, we can't deny our own feelings and that sexual attraction.
Yeah.
What do you do with it at that point? And, you know, where's the line when you do start a relationship? It just, that opens up a whole different...
Well, we all have our own personal lines, and so we you know, you might be willing to date the person once or twice. If the person is saying that the person is right for you and they're making these advances, and if you have some sort of feeling for that person, obviously, if they're coming to talk to you, they're not just a lunatic. You must have given them some sort of body language or initiative. Granted, there are lunatics out there, but
well, not too.
but let's take it as a normal thing. You know, she comes up to you and you sort of like it in some ways. Now, how do you deal with that? I think that's a real issue here. Is that I would probably want to see her if I'm attracted to her. If I find what she's doing interesting, I wouldn't just because she's making advances to me, I would just shut it off. Because if I'm attracted to her, I'd want to date her. I want to go out at least once or twice with her and then try to figure her out a little bit.
Yeah.
And then maybe make more decisions as I go along.
I think that's really true. I think when I re-entered the single world, the wonderful world of being single, at 43, after being married 23 years, I think that was one of the things that I did not realize, you know, that, because I thought, you know, if you feel those things for somebody, then it should go that way, you know.
Right.
Well, that's not true.
You get some in trouble, all right.
That was a misconception that I had, and you know, I think that you can pretty much be with a lot of different people and feel those things.
Yeah.
Any number of people, you know, that you're loosely attracted to. If you spend enough time with a person.
If you spend enough time with, really, I think, with anyone, you will find, number one, if you're spending time with them, there's a reason. So there's some commonality that is causing you to spend time with them.
Right.
And it's out of that commonality that you'll find that an attraction will spring up around that commonality.
And what I have found, excuse me for interrupting, is that if you jump forward with intimacy too fast, both of you lose. Because there's so many things that getting into a sexual relationship prematurely ruins.
But it's worse for a woman. It's worse for a woman.
Is it worse for a woman? I don't think so.
I don't necessarily think that it's
Guys might internalize it differently, and they might not express it the same, but they still hurt.
Right.
They aren't as tough as they make you
but
think.
like we said earlier, women do mistake sex for love, and guys, sex is sex. They
Exactly.
it's just sex.
Is that true, guys?
Right?
Come
Wouldn't
on.
you say
Well,
sex is sex?
that's a good generalization for perhaps a lot of people, but there are guys too who don't necessarily take it that easily.
That
And
sex is just sex?
right. No,
Okay, thank you.
you just don't take it as.
Well,
I don't know. I would
see,
say majority of guys.
But you know what?
Yeah.
Look, I would say
Exactly.
this. I mean, but even still, it's like, you know, you can't really generalize for the
Men.
most part anybody. You know, you can't.
Or you can look at
we can take a
trends.
survey.
I mean, you can look at trends, but see, the thing is, like, I think you can almost like look at the trend for people who think that way. For guys that where women are just objects and or they're just something that they include in their life, then yeah, they're probably going to look at it that way. I mean, I'm 28 years old and I'm still
I didn't know you were that old.
yeah. I'm 28 years old and
Accurate.
and I've never done the deed, still a virgin, but but the thing is, it's like I wish I could say I was perfect, that I never made any mistakes, and the mistakes that I have made, they stay with me. So because I've jumped into going much farther than I should have, and I regret to say it. I wish I didn't have to say it.
Doesn't it ruin
But I'll tell you, it does.
relationship?
And what it does is it stays in your mind.
Yeah.
And it stays in your mind. And there's certain things that it makes it harder to deal with. Those things, it stays a part of you.
But isn't that because you're a urban youth worker and a pastor or minister, right? So isn't that really because of your level of faith that's really working on you in that way, and your position? Would that be the same?
Yeah, you get paid to be good.
Would that be would it be the same thing
Definitely don't get paid.
for another
Don't do it for the money.
28-year-old guy who, I don't know. I
No,
don't know
you know what,
that would be the same.
But see, that's the thing. It's like, that's why I was saying it depends on what you're living for and who you are. See, I mean, like, not that you have to be a Christian or whatnot to have standards for your life, to have a purpose. Not that only Christians do that. But I'll say this, that for anybody, and the thing is, it's like for anybody who actually has that purpose, and when they want to be have that intimate relationship, they want to have it with their bride because they want to have it be everything it's supposed to be. So anybody that looks at it that way,
it's supposed to be okay. Just even saying the way it's supposed to be, that just kind of says that there is a standard out there that you ascribe to, but does everyone ascribe to that same standard? And then, again, for people who are over 35, like myself, waiting can suck.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, like, and not that, and I'm not saying that it's easy. I'm not saying that it's easy. I mean, like, with anything in life, everything's like easier to say than do. Absolutely.
But I want to get back to that point I was trying to make about, like, if you jump ahead, because this happened to me twice. Okay, if you jump ahead and get intimate with somebody before you're supposed to, and I do think there's a big standard in the sky. Okay, I think probably the way our mothers taught us is probably right after all. Darn it, And that, I mean, when there's a painting, there's a painter. When there's a building, there's a builder. I think that there is a way that things are supposed to roll on this planet, okay? And when we can hook up with it, when we find out, what the structure is supposed to be and get the formula straight, it does help a lot, because every time that I jumped ahead, not only did I damage myself for jumping out of the box and not getting what you were talking about, but trying to, like, jump too fast, it ruined the relationship that I had.
Right.
And whatever creative purpose that relationship was going to have, like you were talking about earlier, about you might be meeting that person for a completely different reason, and you jump to that, and it's not even the right move.
Right.
And so now you can't even do what you were really supposed to be doing with them.
Exactly. But at the same time, I don't think that you should feel so disappointed in yourself for going that way.
Just beat myself up.
Yeah, but and as human beings, we have the tendency to do that. We have the tendency just to, take it hard on ourselves for the mistakes that we have made. But I think that's where, if we're to subscribe to a larger order of things, I think that's where our faith comes in and says, well, it's taking a risk again. It's better than just sitting back and saying, well, I'm not going to do it because I've been hurt once and I don't want to do it. I'm just going to wait for things to happen to me.
That is different. Very different. You're right.
So there's certain
being like
level
a coward.
Being fearful, because that to me is not right either.
That's not the right reason.
I'd rather see a person take chances. Right. And that will build character.
Yeah.
As you go along the way, you will build character in terms of everything that you learn from the relationship.
But it's discerning the choices and the risks.
Well, yeah, because after 2 times of having relationships fall apart, which I thought both of them were going to end in marriage, you get a little bit, okay, I'm going back into my house now. I am not coming out. You know what I mean? What?
Huh? No.
I saw you talking to him about me.
No.
You were whispering. No, but I mean, you start to get like, okay, I'm done. I can't do this. If I'm going to be single the rest of my life, and black women especially, excuse me for pointing this out.
70% of black women will never say I do.
70?
70.
That's a lot different for white girls. So when you see...
It's a staggering statistic, 70%. So then, you've got to look, you've got to look
at the potentiality.
At the potential of, okay, you're let's say you're 25 and you're, just out of school and you're looking at, okay, what kind of life do I want to have? And you look at all the women that you admire and or are professionals or whatever it is that you want to do, and the ones that look like you don't have what you say you want. They don't have it. You want a husband in a house with, white picket fence and 2.5 kids and a dog. But the women that you see, whether they're celebrities or, professionals high on the whatever corporate ladder, they don't have that. So you're 25 and you're making decisions on how you're going to live your life. So many say, well, if that's not in the cards, let me just go for what I know. Because that's not in the cards. What's the likelihood of me obtaining that? Very small. Very small.
So that, Helena, how have you dealt with that? I got to know. I mean, because you're living it.
It's a very interesting dynamic. That's why when you say, can you be happy outside of a romantic relationship, it's not to say that these women are not in romantic relationships. They're just not married. Right. They have children, they cohabitate, they do all of these things, but they're just not married. So when you talk about happiness, being happy outside, being happy being single, I guess my question is, what is single?
Okay, okay. Well, I would define it as, well, Josiah, how would you define it? Do all the talking here.
What is single? Not being married. That's how I would define it. And I think all of this is a question of an end and a means to an end, and whether or not you're going to take a certain means to achieve a certain end. In the aspect of having sex, I'm not going to have sex until I get married. So it's a question of whether or not it's more important to me to achieve the end of having sex, or the question of how it is that I have sex via the means. And I think that the end is more important. I think the means, it's more important. I'm not going to have sex outside of getting married. I think a standard is a standard. It should be kept. They preach failure in the school systems, and that's why they get failure.
What do you mean by that?
Generally, kids, like, you come into a kid, you know what I mean? And instead of, for the most part, telling a child in the school system that they can be whatever they can be, what they teach is that if you're a certain race, if you have a certain income, if all these things fall into play, then you're not going to be able to reach whatever it is that it is. And so then what happens is, right from the beginning, you pump into a child failure that they can't achieve, that they can't hold themselves to a standard, and then they get exactly what it is that they put out. They do this in life. This happens with sex all the time. If I look you in the eye and I tell you that I'm not going to have sex until I get married, you have a responsibility as a friend to look at me and will encourage me and help me get there. Don't tell me, you know what? Most likely, you're not going to.
Well, don't some girls find that as a challenge to get rid of it?
Don't some girls find that as a challenge? Yes, but isn't life a challenge? Yes. Taking a risk on somebody who's not going in the same direction as you, that's not a risk. It's called a concession. When you date somebody who's going in exactly, when you date somebody who's going in the opposite direction, what you're doing is you're changing your means. All of a sudden change. Like, I won't get somewhere by a certain means, I'm not going to get there. Will you die for believing in something? Well, somebody needs to have some conviction. Will you die without something if you don't want to get it a certain way? Well, that's fine. And I think people begin to look at it as circumstantial. They begin to look at it as emotional, and they don't look at it as objective standard. 35 years, kids don't want to hear, well, when I get 35, it's okay to slack my standards. No, if you have a standard, you just wake up every day and you commit yourself to it, and you take it one day at a time. And if you don't get where you want to get that day, you get up and you try it again the next day. That's the bottom line. And I think the word standard shouldn't be used. I think that convictions that people have shouldn't be called convictions if they're not willing to really try to stand up for them. Like, if you purpose in your heart that you're going to fail, don't purpose in your heart to even try to do anything. And I think that this kind of encouragement is what children need to hear. Everybody will tell them they can fail. You can fail without trying. So
I see that a lot. I see people that, you know, do you see this in the art world that, you know, people say, well, this is my standard. Then as soon as they get in a situation where there's any kind of temptation, their standard's gone, they pray and forget, you know, ask forgiveness, and the next day they're right back, you know. I mean, it's like there's not a conscience. There's a standard but no conscience. That's a prevalent thing. Big time.
Well, I think it goes back to
what
you said. You have to know you. You really have to know who you are. If you don't know who you are, you can't have your personal convictions will waver, because then you're being moved around based on the circumstances of that time. So if you know who you are, and you've established, okay, this is who I am, this is what I stand for, then when different situations present themselves, you look at that situation from the standpoint of who you are, as opposed to looking at the situation and trying to fit yourself into what's going on there.
Rebecca, Helena, Brandon, Josiah, Michael, I'd like to thank you all for coming today. Basically, the bottom line is that what we have been trying to communicate is that when you're your own best friend and you're whole and you're established wholeness in yourself, then you're really ready to give to somebody else. That's what I think I'm hearing. And that until that time, you need to have a conscience, have a conviction that will really enable you to live a happy, healthy, single lifestyle. Is that it? Thanks for joining us on The Bright Side. Bye-bye.
カリフォルニアの太陽、そしてこの大地。ミキプルーンはこの太陽と大地の恵みでいっぱいなんだ。体にいいものをおいしく食べて元気になってと。母なる大地と太陽の恵み、ミキプルーン。